Hi everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Louisiana Focus. I'm Benjamin Butler.
And I'm Juan PEREZ. For today's episode, we will be looking at 3 documentaries that deal with the current state of the church, also life after football, and we follow a couple in their senior years who give back to their communities through their passion.
Plus, we have 2 talk show segments, one focusing on a suicide survivor, and the other segment converses with a local councilman and his big plans to improve Lafayette.
We hope you enjoy this new storytelling format we have in store for you. We will be right back.
With recent controversy surrounding the Catholic Church, 4 Black young adults take a step back and reflect on their own religion with cautious thoughts, as their life experience and traditions are at a crossroads for them. Documentary filmmaker Leah McNeil has the story.
Louisiana, the melting pot of the South. The unique culture is unlike any other in the world. The food and music are the first things that come to mind when you think about Louisiana. But the trifecta isn't complete without religion.
Everybody that agrees shouts! Give them praise! Give them praise!
But how exactly has religion affected the area? Why is religion so important, and what makes people so faithful despite doubt? We'll answer these questions and more. You're watching Louisiana, the Black Religious Experience.
We live, in the Bible Belt. It's so ingrained in our everyday lives that you're never really 100% away from it at all.
Especially being Catholic, I feel like in the deep South, especially in Louisiana, it's like a culture.
Church is becoming more scripted now.
It's forced too much, you get to resent it, and you really don't get to appreciate some of the small stuff.
Church almost seems like an act to me.
I mean, I know there are some people who are truly believe in Catholic or Baptist doctrine, and they are truly believers, and that's great. But I do think there's also a large majority of people who are just kind of going through the motions because it's such a big part of our culture.
If in church you don't feel safe, where can you?
I spoke to 4 young Black locals who come from all different walks of life, but have one thing in common.
I went to catechism all my life, was confirmed in the Catholic Church. I was an altar server, I was in the church all the time. That was just how I was raised, and
maybe a couple times out the month, we go to church, and we weren't like a holiday family, the people that go to church on the holiday, and we weren't Bedside Baptist where we just didn't go at all. But, it was just kind of like an occasional thing for us, but we did have to do those rules like Cameron mentioned, so doing catechism and going to get your first communion.
We never missed a Sunday, we never missed a Saturday school, Wednesday Bible study. We was always in church. That was the one thing. Early morning, 7:30 service. As I started to get older, my mom had me pretty young, so my grandmother still had control over her as far as making her go to church too. But once we got on our own, I noticed that my mom didn't go to church anymore. So if I wanted to go to church, I had to go with my grandmother.
With my personality, I'm not more introverted, so it really kind of didn't mix. So usually just going to church, I'm just there. I'm really not involved. And then going up through high school and especially going into college, I just found myself getting heavily into the sciences, and I guess sciences and more religion really doesn't mix as much as oil and water. So it's just, I guess with me going through that time, it's just a lot of pushback between parents, because they're very, very heavily religious, and me, I'm kind of not so much.
All 4 have a religious background. Most didn't have a choice.
I was baptized around 7 years old, I think, that. And I do think I was way too young to be baptized because I did not understand at all. I didn't understand what I was being taught. I just knew that this was what they said is right. This is what they said I should do. So yes, I do want to give myself to God and get baptized and everything. And I don't think I was ready for that.
Like I know my sister was 3 years older than me when she graduated high school. My mom then gave her a choice, like, you know, if you don't want to go to church every Sunday with your grandma, you don't have to. But as for me, I left when I was 17 to come to college. So my whole life at home, I went to church every Sunday, and I was just always, you know, in the Catholic Church, there's a lot of like, what you call like rules, I guess you could say, obligations, and I fulfilled all the obligations just because my grandma made it certain that I did.
They aren't the kids they once were, but still the guilt lingers.
Not because I don't believe in God, it's just I'm still trying to like figure out what exactly I believe. Like when you're Catholic for so long and it's not by choice, it's like kind of hard to be like, well, do I actually believe in that? Like, am I question things? And in the Catholic Church, you're kind of taught not to question things, and that just doesn't really work with most people in general. But I think it is part of your culture, because even though I'm not technically a practicing Catholic anymore, I still participated in Lent. I still went to church for Lent. I'm going to go to church for Easter, for Christmas. Like, it just feels like it's a part of me. I feel bad if I don't go.
Though the guilt remains, they still have many concerns about the church that makes them pull away.
One of the reasons why I kind of like pulled away was when I started hearing about, you know, sexual abuse in the Catholic Church, like when I was younger, you know, like when I was in high school and stuff like that. Like, I know we have these big scandals now, but like even before, when you hear things or whatever, it was just like, well, you know, that's kind of strange that we just kind of sweep that under the rug. And when you read about it and you read that it's been going on for years and years, like literally centuries, like for a very long time, to the point where it's almost like ingrained in the culture of Catholicism. It's like, you know, how do you say this is what I want to participate in? Like, how do you proudly say this is what you want to participate in?
The church that I've been going to recently, there's cameras everywhere. Somebody's always filming. In the middle, I'm trying to the sermon and I'm distracted. You know, and it's like when people are catching the Holy Ghost and all that, they want that film. And I feel like, why do we need to film that? Like, what is so important about that? Why we can't just live in a moment, you know? So I think church is becoming more scripted now.
The fellas! Oh, you want to take off your shoes? I got on some shoes, too. You got your socks on. You can have to take off your socks.
Others say it's hard to pull away, especially because religion is such a huge part of the Black identity right here in the South.
Like the history of African Americans in the South, a lot of the civil rights activists were like active members in the church. So you see like Reverend Martin Luther King. I mean, you have a lot of different figures there. So not just it being like the religion, also like the majority of the people you look up to were active in the church. So I feel like it's just ingrained in so many different ways. It's just like it's very, very dynamic how the church is historically, especially in the South.
Some say comprehending religion in the first place is especially hard because they have a different way of thinking.
I mean, when it comes to like sciences and how things work, I mean, I take a more traditional approach of like the sciences and explaining things.
I take a more like realist approach to life, period. And so there are things that's like can be proven by science, right? And so I felt like so much of what I was being taught wasn't factual, and like I'm a more fact-based person, period. That's just kind of how I operate in life. And there were things that didn't make sense to me, and when I asked questions, nobody could answer them. And for that reason, it was just kind of like, well, you know, I'm not really into this anymore.
All four agree. When and if they ever become parents, they will give their children a choice.
Once they get older, I will give them the option, you know, if they want to go for something different, believe in anything else, that's their choice?
I'll just give my children a choice. I feel like choice is the best thing.
Because I was kind of given that choice later on in my life, and I think that it really, I don't have any negative feelings towards like religion because I was not forced for so long. Like some people who have left religion completely have negative feelings towards religion because they were forced in it for such a long time. And so I think that I just want to be able to give my children a choice.
So if I do go back to a church, any church, whatever, then yeah, I will bring them, but I will just make it very known, this is what mom believes, you don't have to believe this. Like, this is why I chose to believe as an adult. If you want to be in some other religion, or if you choose you don't believe in any higher power, that's fine with you. That's fine with me. And then we can just go through there to, get them the resources they need to take part in any other faith if they choose to do that.
Though this group has chosen to stray away from decades of tradition, it's clear religion has a special place in the heart of the South. The demand to align with the religious belief system is not going to disappear. It's embedded in our culture. It's in our DNA. It's just who we are.
Suicide is one subject that is not mentioned often, but it is something that happens more often than not in this generation. DAION BREWER sat down and spoke with one survivor who is willing to bring awareness to her situation.
I have a plan and a reason to be here. I just don't know what it is yet.
Welcome back. That voice that you just heard was the voice of one strong young woman who survived 3 suicide attempts within 4 years. Well, today she's 3 years harm-free, and I'm glad she's here with us to tell us her story. Let's bring her out. Okay, well, Brett, I want to thank you for joining me today and doing this interview. The reason that we are here today is to talk about suicide awareness and prevention. So, how many attempts have you had so far?
I've had 3 attempts so far. One when I was 14, 16, and then my last one when I was 17.
Okay, can you take me back to, you said 14 was the first one, right? At 14, at such a young age, most people say, you know, how can someone that young be depressed or anything? But I know it goes on. So can you take me back to that moment? Tell me how you feel. What were you going through at 14 years old?
Well, 2 years prior, my grandmother had passed away, and she was really close to me. Though my mama raised me, I was closer to my grandmama. I could call her in the middle of the night, literally at 2 o'clock in the morning, and we just had a conversation. So for me to be 12 years old, fresh, you know, into 8th grade and stuff like that, and she be taken away from me, it made me lose a sense of who I was. And like, I questioned God. I questioned my mama, like, why didn't you, you know, fix things to where she could live? Because I really didn't understand death. I was young. Right. And she was my last grandparent to be alive. So for her to just, you know, leave the earth and know I wouldn't be able to see her anymore, it just put me in this depression. And I've always been on the thicker side of life. It's hereditary. It's not going to go nowhere, and I've accepted it at this point. But when I was younger, I used to get teased a lot because when I was little, skinny was the thing. You know, not having a chest or hips or butt, you were pretty. And looking back at my pictures now, I was like, wow, you know, I was actually a cute girl. But back then, you couldn't tell me that. And I had been teased all the way from 1st grade up until 8th grade, like every day. It got to a point where I hated school. I hated seeing people I knew from school, whether like it was in the mall or at church. I just hated it. If you reminded me of school and me being teased and being sad every day, I hated you. So between my grandma dying and 7+ years of being called fat and ugly and getting things like food items thrown at me, I was sick of it. And I didn't feel like I could talk to my mom because my mom's kind of hard. She's a softie, but she's hard. And when it came to like teasing, she'd always be like, well, let it roll off your back, you know, don't really worry about it. They just jealous. And as a child, you don't understand why are they jealous of me or how do I let it roll off my back. And I felt like I didn't have anyone to vent to like I needed. And I felt the only way to get over that pain was to remove myself from the problem, which meant to kill myself. So I attempted suicide in the middle of the night. I had cut my wrist, and right after I cut it, I was bleeding profusely. So I knew if I didn't do something immediately, I probably would have been gone. And I went to my mom's room. I was like, Mom, I'm bleeding. And she's like, why? What happened? I'm like, I fell out the bed, completely, you know, lying about it, because I realized, like, oh, this is real. Like, I'm about to dip. Like, I need to fix this. This is real. So that was where I was. I was dark. I felt alone. I had friends, but I felt like I didn't have friends. I felt like it was just Brett against everybody. Because when I was in school, they wouldn't come to my defense. They would kind of either be with them, or it was like, oh, I don't know her. And we stayed down the street from each other, so, yeah.
So that moment when you realize, like, this is really real, if I don't do something, I'm gonna be gone, like, what made you realize this isn't what I wanna do anymore?
I would say, looking at the blood come out of my vein, and knowing I'm only 14, like in that moment, it kind of was like, I really felt like my grandma was like, girl, you got so much more life to live. And then I looked at my wrist like, oh, like.
What advice would you give to anyone who's having thoughts like this?
Talk to somebody. Because the people who you might want to talk to, they might not want to listen, but there's always somebody who's willing to listen. Just talk about it. Don't sit there and bottle it up, because the more you contain it, the bigger the container gets, and eventually it's going to explode.
Is there anything else that you would like to let people know about suicide, or how you guys feel during that moment, or anything?
It's not a joke. It's not, I don't take like, you know, people say, oh, just kill me, like, you know, jokes like that, or they do something wrong, it's like, oh, I want to kill myself. And I mean, that's like, you know, that's cool and all, but over time, and they keep saying it, and they keep saying it, it doesn't become a joke anymore.
Right.
And I feel like people should be more aware of the signs of suicide, like, you know, being depressed, not wanting to do anything, not wanting to get out of bed. Look at your friends. Like, just because people are involved and they're laughing, they're giggling, they putting on this facade does not mean that they're okay. Talk to your friends, you know, go out or just link up in the dorm or wherever you stay and just have conversations and make sure that their mental is straight. Because a lot of people think, oh, well, Brett's involved, Brett's not sad. Brett is sad. Brett suffers with depression. Brett goes through moments where she just does not want to be bothered, does not want to get out of bed, does not want to go to class. But I have to push myself to do that.
Right.
And if you don't have people to help you push yourself, then you don't do anything. You just sit there and you're shiftless. So I would tell people who maybe even think that one of their friends are suicidal, check on them, you know, talk to them, get them to vent, open up. They might not be as willing, like I'm not as open to talking to certain people, but the more you pull, I'm gonna get agitated and I'm like, okay, so this is what's going on. And I just tell you, if you agitate them, they'll be all right. They'll get over it. But it's better to have agitated them than for them to kill themselves.
Right.
So, you know, make sure that you understand the signs of suicide. Don't invalidate people's feelings, whether it be, oh, she said this about my hair and it made me upset and it just made me want to kill myself. People can be very vain, granted, but society makes it to where you have to feel like if you don't look a certain way, then you're not good enough. So if your friend is struggling with image, don't invalidate that because image is not something that's big to you.
Right.
Don't invalidate people's feelings because it's not major to you. Be open, be open-minded. You have to be open-minded. You have to understand, okay, well, I don't understand what that feels like, but if you explain it to me more, then maybe I can sympathize a little. It's the difference between empathy and sympathy. You can always sympathize. Anyone is able to sympathize, but not everyone is able to empathize. So just be that person that they feel like, hey, I know you're busy, but can I just talk to you for a little bit? And that's the biggest thing, like know signs and be open to talk to them, because that's what they need.
Well, Brett, that concludes our interview for today, and I just want to thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Giving back to the community is always a very rewarding experience and requires much sacrifice. But when you do this selfless deed at a much older age, the payoff is golden, like the senior years. Documentary filmmaker LACY shows us a passionate couple embracing their fellowship.
I am Arlene Sanders, and this is my husband, Russell Sanders, and we are the co-owners of Russell Seasoning Blends, LLC.
I make an all-purpose, all-natural herb and spice blend that has no preservatives, no additives, no fillers. It's completely chemical-free, and it's a low sodium. It also comes in no salt version for people who just can't have salt, or perhaps they may use the sea salt. So they can take the natural herb and spice blend with no salt, add their sea salt, and they got a new seasoning for it. It's the satisfaction that I get out of presenting it to people. And the satisfaction I get once people put it in their mouth, and then I'm looking them in their face like I'm looking at you, and then I can see something about their features that just changes, you know. It's not an easy task, but because I enjoy it so much, I was persistent. And I found out from working it, persistence is what keeps it going. You may turn me down 4 or 5 times at your store, but I'm still going to come there and tell you, when are you going to put this in the store for me? I'm going to be so persistent, you're going to have to try it one time. Then you'll be happy after that, because most store owners or managers, once they really try the product, they come back and tell me how good it is. What we're doing now, we're working on a new line product. We have the seasoning, we have the no salt and the low sodium seasoning. We're working on a gumbo base so that we can have gumbo jambalaya. We're also working on a rub, different rubs, like chicken, beef, pork, whatever. It's beginning to be a popular thing in this rub. Just putting it together, testing, make sure it's what we want. And that's just this new line product. And perhaps we can get a grant or a loan or something to put it all out at one time, but we will be putting it out in phases, you know. My wife has a nonprofit organization. So I allow her, for the cost of what the seasoning is, because you have to replace it, and therefore she can take it and sell it for the community that she have, our nonprofit, and only pay us after sales what it costs to replenish. And that's the way we do with that. The other thing is we go around to, in the parish here and outer parishes as well, we go to the community centers that they have where all of these elderly people meet. And because we can send our seasoning out as a good, nutritious, meal-enhancing food that people can tolerate and use, people with diabetes, heart problems, you know, blood pressure and stuff like that as we grow older. Our seasoning can be tolerated by these people.
Let's see, the first business I have is the 4-H Home Retreat Center, which stands for Hurt, Help, Heal, and Hope. And that business was founded in April of 2006. And it was founded after a series of crises that I encountered in my life. In '95, we lost a son to suicide, killed his wife, and then killed himself. And they left behind a 3-year-old child that my then husband and I had to raise. And after many days of crying and sadness and feeling sorry for myself, this voice spoke to me and told me I had to get up. I was a productive citizen and I needed to get up and get on with my life and do the things that I was put here to do. And that was to serve and help others. And I was trying to figure what. And the Lord revealed to me that I had an acre of land right next door to my house, and I could do a youth home and provide it as a place for disadvantaged children to come in the summertime to experience a rural atmosphere and to have a closer relationship with the earth. I think the obstacle was funding, and that's going to be the greatest obstacle that we're going to be facing when we try to get back up since 2016, is getting the funding that we need to implement the same programs or new programs. Because all of the programs that we previously had are programs there to provide, you know, kind of like counseling services. We linked with different agencies to try to make sure each kid got whatever they needed. If there were, you know, financial needs, we tried to make sure that school fees were paid and different things. And just getting back up and running is just the greatest obstacle that I see us having now by obtaining the adequate financing needed. I think my greatest accomplishment is knowing that the campers or students or youth that we have served are achievers in the community. They have moved forward in their lives, and they've done wonderful things to the point, I would say we have a 90% rate of all those kids that have passed through this program going on to high school and graduating and going to college and doing wonderful things. I would say that would be, to me, the greatest achievement in terms of doing something that's like giving back and being a worthwhile service to the community, is providing services and assistance to our youth, and especially those youth that are unfortunate that would not have this experience of coming to live in a home-like setting and teaching them how to live together with others. And it kind of gives them something for sort of a pre-college experience before you go to college, living in kind of like a dorm life, because it is a site that they, when we have the 2-week camps or the week camp, that they live on site for a week and they're responsible for different activities. So to me, that would be one of my greatest accomplishments.
The lesson that I've learned from this business is persistence. You have to be persistent. You have to be patient. And you can't spend what you don't have. You have to take, this is for new entrepreneurs, right? If you get into a business, just because you take something and sell it and make $100 with it, don't spend your $100. Build your business with that $100 and keep building, because hundreds turns into thousands. Thousands turns into tens of thousands. You're going to eventually get where your business can even provide a salary for you. but it's not going to happen within 5 years. So you'll be looking at to go out there and do what you got to do for the next 4 or 5 years, and you're going to be all right after that.
Giving is a good thing, but the most important thing is knowing that you're giving to a deserving organization or individual that you know has a true need. And that's where it comes in terms of knowing who to give and what to give them and how to go about selecting that group or that individual.
Well, every time I come in the kitchen to do something, you gotta come in here to dang.
I can't help it at the bank.
You just like to be around me, let me just tell the truth.
I got you. Oh, you're so sweet. I love you too. You're so sweet.
In spite of.
In spite of what?
In spite of you being terrible.
How am I terrible?
How were you terrible? Let me count the ways.
Kids across America dream of one day playing professional sports, but one step in the process that tends to get overlooked is college. For many amateur athletes, this step is pivotal, not just to propel their sports career, but life after it. Documentary filmmaker Ethan DUMAS chronicles our own Raging Cajun, the unraised pursuit of happiness.
Tries to get the edge, gonna stay up, gonna get in. Oh, what a move by McGuire! Touchdown, Raging Cajuns. Are you kidding me? McGuire will go! Touchdown, Jets! 69 yards! His first NFL touchdown.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sitting in a Randy Good truck. He just bought it from me.
We're just gonna have a conversation. It's nothing serious.
We're trying to replace the battery.
By me having all this pressure on me to get assignments done and get projects done, that's only gonna prepare me for the real world when I'm doing it. I feel like setting up the interview and actually interviewing the subject and getting B-roll, that's the hard part. That's the hard part because you have to set up stuff. But once you're done with all that, it's like a sigh of relief, but it is part one. You have many other steps that you have to go through. The ultimate goal as a student athlete is to graduate. And they stress that when you first get here, that's all they stress. We have all these people here to help and assist you. Academic counselors, they're very helpful. They really do their jobs and make sure each student athlete is able to succeed in whatever they want to do.
You should be doing better in this class because, but
I'm doing good though.
What you miss?
I think it's easier for me to show how genuine I am about it on the academic side because I don't get anything extra from it. I don't get any bonuses for graduating students. So, you know, it's easy for me.
Don't let football use you, use football. And what I mean by that is, don't be here for 4 or 5 years and don't get nothing out of college. Because once football gone, that's it. Like, football is going to end one day. That degree won't. You're going to have a degree forever.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's That's wisdom. So it's football and sports can be a platform into other things. And I think football, for me, at times consumed me, and at other times served me really well.
It's growing, and I see the fan base growing, and I see UL getting a lot of support from a lot of different places. It excites me.
Now, obviously, you know, with y'all, with practice, we're fixing it again for y'all pretty soon. You know, the phone hadn't stopped ringing on you, man. People still going to recruit you. So, you know, a lot of schools still on you, DAION. What are you telling those coaches?
Well, it's kind of still open, but mostly my heart's set on UL right now.
And so you telling them that you want to play quarterback still?
Yeah. No athlete, no running back,
no
receiver, none of that.
I got you.
You're a high school recruit, you're the man on campus. You think everything's just about to go your way, and now 4 years later, I just realized how much different my expectations was of college compared to when I got here, and how much I've changed since then.
When you get to college, there is, the flavor of things changes, right? It feels more like a business. And so in college, every year there are new people coming in that are going to play your position and potentially replace you. And so it becomes this where there's less of a personal relationship with coaches and that sort of stuff, and you kind of understand that, you know, with coaches, hey, I can joke and we're friendly and we respect each other, but it doesn't mean they're going to just give me the, you know, the start job.
Patience.
Gotta give me.
That would be Will Hall, keeper by DeAndre into the end zone for the touchdown. They bring DeAndre.
You just learn so many different things, spending 4 years in one spot, and I've learned plenty of things since I've been here. Plenty of things I never thought I would know about.
Life outside of football with my life with football, it became all football. And so it was challenging to try to kind of figure that out, because life moves on. You know, life is not all football. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff going on around you. And if your focus is just on this one thing, you end up missing out on a whole world around you.
I didn't know how to use camera equipment, microphones. Like, I thought broadcasting, when I first got into it, I thought I was just gonna be able to get on camera and just start talking about sports. Boy, was I wrong. So much work has been put into this, and I have to thank all the teachers that taught me, Dr. Davey, Ms. B, Dr. Arter, Miss Holmes, and all the other teachers that I had, because, man, without them, I still wouldn't know how to use a camera. But now, the struggle is almost over. I can't wait till May 17, boy. I can't wait, bro. I can't wait, son. It's almost over for me. 2 more months.
So you wake up every day and you roll your sleeves up and you grind in pursuit of that thing, and it will serve them well. The ultimate outcome is not necessarily where you're a professional athlete. It's you worked in pursuit of something that now you can kind of generalize. That same formula will work in life outside of sports.
Along the way, I would like to think that if a student has gotten that far, you know, just in terms of being here that long. So, you know, if you're about to finish, you're about to go into the real world, you at least have that degree, right? So once you have that degree and then the reality hits you that you're not going to have the opportunity to go pro, you at least have a degree now. So now that you have that degree, no matter what it's in, there's an opportunity now for you to figure out exactly what you want to do.
I might dance, boy. I might dance, I might cry, I might chill. I know I'm a smile for sure. But I can't wait, bro. I know I'm gonna be excited, that's for sure. I don't think it's gonna hit me until I get my degree. Because once I get the degree, I know it's finally over.
The ones that will do well after sports are the ones who recognize they still have a role. Like they still have a meaningful role on the team, and maybe it's not setting records or getting a ton of playing time, but the ones that remain good teammates, remain supportive, understand like this is the way things go. Because the truth is that life is that way too.
I want to take college pictures. And if I take pictures by the swamp, that'd be cool. You know what I'm saying? You hear me? Yeah, I'm gonna be standing up, celebrating. I have a football in my hand, smile. I'm out. I'm done.
One side note about Deion Ray, upon graduation next week, he will be enrolling at Nicholls State University in order to continue his eligibility as a wide receiver. We wish you luck, Deion. And finally, our very own Robert Francis interviews Lafayette District 4 Councilman Kenneth Boudreaux on his big plans for Acadiana.
Hi, I'm Robert Francis, and you're watching the very first episode of my show, Let's Talk Louisiana, where we'll be talking about social, economic, and political issues that affect me and you. My first guest is none other than 12-year councilman of District 4 and 104.7's radio personality for Community Hour, Kenneth "Keep 'em Talking" Boudreaux. Thank you. Well, the first thing I want to say is I thank you for joining me here today to talk about so many things that are impacting our community as a whole and Louisiana. But I just want to give my guests an opportunity to know exactly who you are as a person. So just tell us a little bit about like how you started your public speaking and how you found your calling in touching the people.
Well, first of all, Rod, let me just say thank you for having me. I'm actually honored to be here. As you indicated, my name is Kenneth Boudreaux. I'm a lifelong resident of Lafayette, Louisiana, a neighborhood called the Macomb Edition, right off of the freeway here in North Lafayette. I come from a family of service, I like to call it. My mother's mother, my grandmother, took the first African-American girl to girls state at LSU. My mom and my father was both in the class that desegregated SLI back when it was still SLI. They was in that first class for students to attend the local university. My grandmother on my father's side was a cafeteria worker, which is considered a service type job. And I think it just trickled down into the family. I'm United Methodist by faith, just really love community and love people. I've always had a passion for kids. I tell people I've had a fortunate and very blessed upbringing in life. And I've just taken that and I've attempted to share that with others through training or through advice or through experiences that I could introduce them to. As far as my political career is concerned, believe it or not, people find it hard to do so. I wasn't interested in politics. I was what I called like a service type guy. I just like to help people. And it was constantly, oh, you ought to run for office, you ought to run for office. And then, as I'm sure you have experienced as an African-American male who speaks well, if you black and if you speak well, they think you either got to be a preacher or a politician. Right, so that's how you started, right? Well, to a certain degree, there was a position that was open. Louis Benjamin, a long time, very historical figure in our community, was termed out. Our community representation was very, very important to me. And I had said that if no one stepped up, I would. if someone who I thought could deliver, I wouldn't have never ran.
And that's good.
Yeah, but no one did, in my opinion, at that time. So I had to step up, and the rest is history.
How much power do you have as a politician to really affect people within the community?
The truth be told, I've always said very little. People think that seeking office is for power or even for money, and it's neither. The salary is very low compared to many other communities, and the power basis is minimal. Yes, you get to vote. You're one of 9 who are voting on issues. But the thing about it is that if you're not satisfying your constituency, that time there is going to be short-lived. You won't have a very long career at all, is one thing. And secondly, you serve on a body. It's not as if you're in an independent standing office like a mayor or a governor or a president or an attorney general or a marshal. You're in an office that you're on a board of people. You have to convince enough people to be in the majority with the things that you want to do, and that's not always easy when you look at party affiliations, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, when you look at race, black, white, Latino, and other, when you look at gender now with Me Too movement and the growth of women in politics. So you have so much diversity that exists. It's not easy to build a base to say that you have power. So to answer your question, there's really not a whole lot of power in politics. It's all about service. I think those who have sought it for power have been short-lived. I sought it for service, and I think that's why my career speaks for itself. But to be quite honest with you, it's not a whole lot of power involved. You really can't do anything without someone else's approval, permission, or support.
Now in the video, you also mentioned that, like we all know, the Walmart on the north side is going to be closed on March 29th. It's a very sad thing because I grew up going to that Walmart, and a lot of people around that area are very familiar with that Walmart. And this is a big loss, not only me, but the entire community. And people are hoping that this could somehow be reversed.
It's unfortunate. And you bring up a good point. The way to look at this situation is not only those individuals who frequent that facility pedestrian-wise, they have to walk. Their only means of accessing those products is the walkability to get to Walmart. And even those who ride or take public transit do not wish to go too far. The other thing is the 200, the confirmed number, not the number that was put out there. It was put out that there were 300 jobs. It was confirmed that it was about 225 jobs. It's those 225 individuals whose employment is going to be lost and displaced with no guarantee of reemployment. There was talk that they could apply to other stores, but they've already had a job fair that many of them were not very successful at. Okay, so that is another concern. And the final concern, well, not the final, but the third concern as a level of importance, as far as I'm concerned, is the vacant building, especially a building of that magnitude, a building that has already become some form of a homage for the homeless population, because then it starts to deteriorate that community. There's a housing development that is being planned and constructed right behind it already. There's already residential population in close proximity. So to have that unoccupied facility, I think is going to create a hardship for law enforcement and safety issues going forward.
Now it seems that they're building more and more low-income housing, which affects all of the infrastructure going on around in that area, and it seems like it's just a never-ending rabbit hole that's just going on there. Is there any way? I mean, there's no way. I mean, we can stop the Walmart situation, but there's any way that we can reverse the low-income housing that's going on in that area?
Absolutely, we could demand better. The people who are building behind Walmart wanted to build on Mall Street. between Moss and Louisiana Avenue. And I opposed it. I opposed it, and when I made a clear explanation to the community that it would impact, they opposed it by a huge majority. So absolutely we can. We can demand the type of housing that we want in these communities. A lot of times they need variances and other things to afford their building too. Like in this case, they borrowed money they attempted to get money from the Lafayette Public Trust Financing Authority. They talked about building a facility for SMILE. They're using low-income tax credits. So those are the areas where government can intervene in, thumb up or thumb down. So yes, there is, but the people have to know. And just as you have indicated, that's not something we talk about a whole lot. I have been very vocal about it for about the last 5 to 6 years because it became significant. There hasn't been a low-income development in District 4 since I've come onto the council.
How would you encourage our younger people and our younger generation to get involved with politics and begin to be a part of this change that's coming forth?
It's ironic that you asked me that because everything that I become a part of, I try to make sure it has a real purpose, and it just didn't happen. Well, this political journey that I've experienced, and I could tell you it has been a great one. I've been fortunate and blessed to have had these 12 years of service on the council. The first thing I would tell every young person is the first time you become eligible to register to vote, register to vote. The second thing, because I have graduated from voter registration programs to now I'm implementing voter participation programs. Please vote every single election. I don't care if it's a single constitutional amendment or I don't care if it's the next president of the United States. Voting at 15 and 20 and 22 and 27% is unacceptable. We have to vote in excess of 50 and 60% on a regular basis if we're going to ever correct the ills of our community. So once you register to vote, vote regularly, consistently, each and every election. And last but not least, it's not for everybody, but everybody should consider running for office at one junction or another. Haven't had the experience of running for office, whether you're successful or not, would be of a tremendous benefit so that you could understand what it takes to not only run, but to actually serve and be in office.
Once again, I want to thank Councilman Kenneth Boudreaux for taking the time out to explain so many issues, socially, politically, and economically going on within the Lafayette area. There are so many things that we need to work on and still have to work on. So thank you, Councilman Kenneth, for taking the time out on our very first show, Let's Talk Louisiana. Until next time, I'm Robert Francis.
Thank you for watching today's special edition of Louisiana Focus, which is a co-production between the University of Louisiana at Lafayette and the Acadiana Open Channel.
Our camera operator is Danielle Johnson, our teleprompter is Anders Aguilar, our producer is Katelynn Sprague, and our technical director is Emma Lacey. And our director is Matt Roberts.
Our faculty advisors are Graduate Assistant Amy Borax and Assistant Professor Patricio Salinas.
I'm Juan Perez.
And I'm Benjamin Butler. Thank you for watching, Acadiana.